So today we are opening 100 collector's reserves in Marvel Snap, and we're gonna see what stuff we get. Some of 25 different currencies. So we're gonna get credits and tokens and tickets and God knows what else. There's some tokens. Hopefully get some cool variants. Probably some titles I'm not in love with. Maybe some avatars I don't love. Speak of the devil or the beast, as they say. And we're only gonna open 50 reserves this time, notably, instead of 100, which I usually wait to get to 100 because I am, when you watch this, currently out of town for the week visiting family, so I needed to record some videos ahead of time, and this was a good kind of evergreen video to get recorded early, but I didn't have 100 collector's reserves because, of course, it takes forever to get 100 collector's reserves. On that note, I know since this is going to go pretty fast, I've also planned a little bit of a discussion or rant about Marvel Snap for the end of the video, so stay tuned or skip ahead using the video chapters conveniently placed in your YouTube timeline bar down there. So this is a nice little Dan Hip Martyr, yeah, card I'm actually going to be playing in like 30 minutes for a video you may or may not have already seen. Uwu Pim Particles Kawaii. That's it, man. That's the title for me. We found it. After all this time, I finally found the one that's calling my name. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna get way less variants than normal, but hopefully still some cool ones. I actually was kind of hoping to get this Goliath this week. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I'm glad that I didn't have to waste any keys, though. I've actually, I think, 4 straight weeks gotten the card on the first key, which, feel free to say it's rigged for content creators. I don't know. I feel stupidly lucky. For a while there, I had like a run of like 3 key opens, but I've got a ton of spotlight keys right now because of that. America Chavez Dan Hip. Okay. Yeah. Man, I got to have like most of the Dan Hips at this point. But a super lucky streak, which I needed because I'm kind of running out of collector tokens. So I'm like going to have to maybe start spending more money on this game again soon, which I've only been buying the season passes and the like monthly gold thing that's like $5, and then as a part of the creator program we get like 2,000 gold a month. So that's all I've been doing for the last like year maybe, whereas when I first started I had to spend a bunch of money to get ahead on get all the cards and stuff, but I've been, you know, scraping by basically with $15 a month. But I may start running out of stuff. If I do, I will definitely have to start buying new cards. Cosmic is my stage name. Okay, that's a title, yeah. Gold tickets. If I only get Dan Hip variants, I guess I'm gonna be a little disappointed. I like them fine, but you know, I've got a million at this stage. I guess completing albums is pretty cool, so that's a bonus. Ooh, Pandart Sunspot. Okay, I don't hate this. I do feel like Sunspot is a card that has fallen off a ton lately. I just like never see Sunspot anymore. I guess he's still in some high Evo decks here and there. I'm just gonna check really quick. Like, are there any good Sunspot decks? Oh, some people are actually playing him with War Machine right now. War Machine like Storm Legion lists. He does look a little worse maybe though than some of the other decks I've seen without Sunspot. I don't know, like, I don't think you need him in the new War Machine. He was really good with the old War Machine because you needed that, like, turn 6 bonus power sometimes. But now with the new War Machine, you just, like, play your thing on 6 or whatever. So he seems way less useful with the new War Machine. That's why I cut him anyway. Just logically speaking. I think the data kind of bears that out too right now, yeah. All the best War Machine lists do not have Sunspot, so maybe just like High Evo where you're planning to skip energy. I think the game has just gotten really good at spending energy. Like, you want to play cards and spend energy, and it's like really efficient to play cards and spend energy because cards are so good that Sunspot's kind of fallen off a bit. Pixel Cosmo, I don't hate that one actually. That's pretty good. These always look really bad on my main screen, but then when I look over at my stream setup, which the monitor's like farther away, they look way better. Like when you zoom out, same thing on a phone. They look way better on a phone. Pixels, I mean, you know, they have their fans. Ooh, oh, dude, this has always been my least favorite Dan Hip. We've made fun of this one a lot, but I think I need it for an album, like to complete an album or almost complete an album, so it might be a welcome sight anyway. This pose on the Silver Surfer is hilarious, dude. Like, I don't know, like his feet just look so awkward to me, because usually, you know, you kind of see him more like standing sideways and kind of a surfer thing, but in this he's kind of pointing forward on the board, and that front leg, the front leg, right, like it's crossed over weird. But even if you imagine that like at the front of the board is sloped in such a way that front leg is like up here and the back leg is going to be back here, right? Which means it looks like the back leg is like 5 feet longer than the front leg, because his hips are like here. The back leg is going to be like, you know, stretching straight down from my finger, and the front leg is here, right? Like, this doesn't make any sense. That back leg's got to be so much longer. It doesn't look like the front one's bent enough. But anyway, just awkward pose. One of the rare misses. Also, I just think that like glowing on his hands is like dramatically different sized, even though they're not that far. Like one is not that farther forward in frame. The background looks weird. It's just all in all the most awkward Dan Hip. Which I'm not a Dan Hip hater. Don't call me a hater. It's just that one doesn't hit for me. Feels clunky. The rest are pretty cool. Here's where we're gonna have a bunch of people in the comments like, actually, Regis, if you look at the angle of his legs, there's a 27-degree angle at his crotch. I've inspected his crotch for 20 minutes, Regis. He has a 27-degree angle, which means the leg is 4 inches longer, which is accounted for perfectly in the curvature of the front leg. Cellmate says hi. Can you play Marvel Snap from jail? Arm wrestling champion? Okay, I mean that one's, if you're playing like a Hulk deck or something, that one seems okay. I think Loki players should be in jail. No, Loki's cool these days. He's not so bad. There are still some good Loki Airsham decks, but definitely not as common or as annoying, I think, at this stage. All right. Oh, I like this. I like the ink pulp stuff. Very graphic, very strong, bold black lines, very saturated colors, like actually kind of oversaturated, but in a charming way. Yeah. Very flowy, cool stuff. Energy effects in the background. Goop, I guess. She's gooping on you. I like the purple color highlighting on there. That's pretty nice. I like ink pulp stuff a lot. Definitely hits my style vibes. Okay. Collector tokens. Who could have guessed? Golden tickets. I mean, dude, these golden tickets are such an insult, because at the start of every season, I get that little pop-up that's like, you didn't use your golden tickets, so we've turned them into boosters, and it's like you get like 7 boosters or something. It's actually embarrassing. I don't know what the number is, but it's hilariously small every time. Baby Chibi Living Tribunal. Yeah, not super to the Chibis, but you know, okay. For Chibi, as far as Chibis go, I like it. Tribunal's just a cool looking character, nice color palette. I love cosmic-y stuff, like space backgrounds always make me excited. Oh, baby Jean Grey. Okay, actually pretty cool. Do most of the Jean Grey variants have Phoenix-y elements? I feel like they made Phoenix Force its own separate card, which reasonably so. I mean, it's like a possessing entity, right? So it kind of is its own thing. But I feel like the Jean Grey variants have mostly avoided. I don't know if that's true though. That may not be true. Maybe I've just never noticed it. I'm literally pulling it up right now. Let's see. Let's see what Jean Grey variants look like, right? No, there's been quite a few actually. No, there's been enough to. I mean, some do, like the first few have, but this one has Phoenix-y stuff. Phoenix-y stuff. I think technically that counts as Phoenix-y stuff. Oh my god, there's a lot of Jean Grey variants. What in God's name? I had no idea. But it looks like maybe about half and half. This one's cool. Jim Lee. Like it. Man, that's way more than I realized. That's a card we don't see played too much. He had that little streak there where that Jean Grey ongoing deck was popping up, and she's actually made a bit of a comeback this week too with War Machine. I've seen some War Machine Jean Grey stuff where you like force your opponent to play the Jean Grey and you play elsewhere kind of thing. With some ongoing support spectrum and so on. It's a little bit of a comeback. This War Machine change just completely upended the meta. I still can't believe they did it. I cannot believe it. Oh, Max Grek Lizard. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Good dynamic pose. Yeah, that was not bad at all. Speaking of ongoing cards, Valkyrie Avatar. Is that just the base Valkyrie? Oh, final one. We're already to the final one. And it's 200 credits. Okay. Yeah, that did definitely go fast with only 50. No surprise there. So let's take a look here. Can we look at recent? I think we have to go to that other view, don't we, to see recent. Oh, but let's check this album real quick. It said Miss America. Yeah, 6 out of 7. Okay. Wasn't there? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, I did. I got 2 more Cosmic Companions. I need Darkhawk and Annihilus to get the Captain Marvel emote. We got the Captain Marvel Dan Hip in the meantime, which looks pretty sweet. Yeah. Rocking the shorter hair. I prefer the longer hair, but you know. I don't really use emotes. Really always appreciate these. Any tokens or credits we'll take. It's funny, the only 2 complete albums I have are both Pixels. Pixel, dude. That one's pretty good to have, though. That Wolverine's pretty sick. That's cool. And, of course, tokens. Okay, let me look at all those variants we got. Oh, there's literally a newest tab right here. I'm just dumb. I thought it was called recent for some reason. So yeah, Dan Hip Martyr. Let's give this a rating from 1 to 5 stars. I think that's actually pretty cool, Dan Hip. I'll say 4 stars. Chavez Dan Hip. Again, actually pretty good. Nice dynamic background, good pose, 4 stars. Sunspot Pandart. I like this, okay. It does look a little digitally. I don't know how to describe this. It looks a little like, well, Pandart Studio is a studio. It kind of looks like studio art, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I'm going to say 3 stars anyway. Silver Surfer, dude, this is a 1 star for me. I think this looks so goofy. It's for such a cool character. I freaking love Silver Surfer, but this looks bad. That's a 1 star. Hazmat here. I do like this a lot. Maybe 5 stars for me, actually. I like that style a lot. Tribunal, not a big chibi guy, 2 stars. Jean Grey, not a big baby guy, but it's pretty cool baby, so maybe 3 stars. Lizard, that's pretty sweet. I'll say 4 stars on that. And then this Dan Hip bonus Captain Marvel, actually pretty good. 4 stars again. I'm a Dan Hip enjoyer. This Green Goblin, by the way, is so sick. This is a 5 star for sure. I forget where this came from already, but it's so sick. That looks cool. Was this in a album? Maybe feels like it was. Spider-Man Dan Hip's pretty good. You guys haven't seen this one. This is probably 4 again. Yeah. This classic reference to Spider-Man's first appearance. What is that, like Amazing Fantasy number 15 or something? Is that right? I made that up, but sounds kind of right. Pretty cool. I like it. This guy's very popular. This Noir Professor X is pretty sick. I actually don't hate Pixel Cerebro. It looks pretty nice. I think the base Symbiote Spider-Man, by the way, looks really cool. I think this looks awesome. I kind of like all the base card art styles anyway, but this one particularly sick. Oh, this Omega Red's so cool, dude. I freaking love Omega Red. One of my favorite Marvel villains for sure. I thought I had another Omega Red recently, but maybe it was this one. I just forgot. Oh, no, I saw that one on the main screen. That's what it was. Black Cat, pretty good Dan Hip, yeah. Okay, got a couple hazmats lately. Wow. Anyway, those are the variants. Curious if you guys hate the Silver Surfer as much as I do. Like I'm you know, I don't want to be a hater for haters' sake, because I do love all the other Dan Hips, but this one just did not hit the mark for me. So that said, let's I knew this video was gonna run a little short. You know, I want these to usually be 20-25 minutes if I can. So and we only opened 50 reserves, so I kind of plan to talk a little bit about Marvel Snap. Whoa, crazy idea. So I guess we'll just kind of scroll through variants here as I run through some thoughts. I really just wanted to do a sort of state of the game, you know, how am I feeling about things with Marvel Snap, which really my opinions on the game have not changed in the 2+ years that we've been playing. Basically, I still think Marvel Snap has absolutely brilliant gameplay. Like once you're inside a game, man, it's fun. Like, it's still my favorite card game to play. I love short games. I love the simultaneous turns. I think the cards and characters and effects are really enjoyable. Of course, there have been like meta decisions I find questionable, and I got frustrated with Loki like everybody else for a while. Right now, I'm not totally sure what they were thinking with War Machine. Those little things happen, but you know, on average, overall, I think the game has felt really brilliant to play since the very first time I played it, and I still have a ton of fun playing it today. You know, I enjoy it more than Hearthstone, which I played for years and years, and I still like Hearthstone. although this latest mini set they put out has been it's frustrated me, but on average, I still love Hearthstone, but Marvel Snap just took it to that next level for me, and it's been really fun to play. But as I've said from day one and still say today, I think the progression models, the card unlocks, the monetization behind Marvel Snap has always been a really frustrating element. Particularly, I feel like the development teams seeming focus and interest, and particularly from a marketing angle, how they always focus on systems and currencies and unlocks and progression instead of trying to highlight the video game itself, has always frustrated me. Every time we see a promotional thing about Marvel Snap, it always focuses on currencies and like unlock tracks and stuff. Like the most recent example was advertising Deadpool's Diner. I think it was on like that IGN show or something they did, which, wasn't the biggest platform, but still, I think there were like 4,000 or 5,000 people watching that. And they just talked about the collection track. They didn't show a second of gameplay. They didn't show cool characters doing cool things. They didn't show Hulk getting slammed down on board or Gladiator lasering somebody to death. There's all these cool things about the game you can show, and they just constantly emphasize and focus on all the stuff about it that's annoying and sucks. But I think that just showcases where their mind is at. Like, that's what they design and develop for, is all the systems and ways to focus on like the progression and monetization. By the way, this null is so sick. I did not know I had this, dude. That is so cool. I am not an edgelord kind of guy, but that looks so sick and edgy and awesome. So, it's just, to me, it kind of reflects emphasis or focus. And from a gameplay standpoint, we did just finally get a new keyword with activate. So that's great. Like, that's finally feel like something new and interesting has been happening in the game for the first time in a long time. It has felt pretty flat. I do, to some extent, wish they would explore more game modes. We got Conquest forever ago. It's really just not been my vibe, because it takes one of the things I love about Marvel Snap, which is short games, and makes it into long games, basically, because now you're locked in for a full Conquest session instead of a single match if you want to get the full experience. Draft mode was teased, is in development. I don't know when that's coming or what that's going to look like, but that could be good, though I do have some concerns. Now, jumping over to the progression side of things, like, look, we've discussed the progression side of things 1,000 times. Everybody has. Everybody knows the game feels bad to play. Particularly, I think there's that kind of section of middle players. What I mean is, people who start playing the game love it at first because you get, a ton of cards right away. You're just unlocking stuff all the time. It feels really good to play Marvel Snap early. I think people who've been playing the game for a long time feel pretty good too. They've either kind of gotten used to the suffering or have just, been able to keep up and accrue enough resources. They feel like they have cards they enjoy and can still get new stuff. So, old timers like me and maybe you and some new players feel good, but there's this middle group where they kind of hit these walls throughout the collection track where suddenly they're not getting Series 3 cards all the time, and they're suddenly starting to have to purchase Series 4 cards. They're starting to have to rely on Spotlight caches for Series 5 stuff to get more reliable cards, and things just slow to a crawl. And that sucks, because basically what happens, I'm afraid, is that Marvel Snap has this kind of core base of long-term players that are fairly happy, doing their thing. The me's and you's of the world, probably. If you're watching this, I assume that's you, but maybe not. You might be new too. But the problem is, that group will just inevitably shrink over time. People move on in life. People find new games. It just can't keep up forever unless you're adding new people into that group. And Marvel Snap actually has, I think, a pretty good base of new players all the time as well. I actually kind of see this on YouTube. There are always like new viewers popping in and stuff. And I see a ton of advertising for Marvel Snap, which wouldn't happen unless those were converting, at a reasonable level. So they pump money into advertising, bring in new players in the ecosystem. But what happens is, so many of those new players, they come into the ecosystem, they're happy for whatever, a few months or something. I don't know how long it takes, but they eventually hit that middle bracket and they start falling off like flies. So very few people make it into that core group of players. So you've got attrition happening at the end, this kind of slow trickle. You've got middle players falling off en masse, I assume. Of course, obviously we don't see the data, but this is based on how people share their experiences. We've seen these comments 1,000 times, probably literally 1,000 times. Like, I stopped playing because I stopped getting new cards. And that machine that's feeding in new players all the time, you know, it can't sustain the game forever. So there has to be something done to ease that experience, moving people from new players to established long-term players, or the game is eventually just going to trickle itself away. On top of that, I think Marvel Snap has a big problem with returning players. You know, one great way for games to kind of revitalize their player base is with big content drops that bring people back into the game. And we see this traditionally in card games with like expansions where you release a bunch of cards. Hearthstone has expansions every 4 months or whatever. A bunch of cards come out, people come back, check them out. Even if they don't stick around for a long time, you just have this way to keep this engine that keeps pulling people back into the system. And that's great. Marvel Snap doesn't have that. There's not ever a big drop of new cards. There's just a new card every week, which is, you know, that's great. But rarely do those cards look so exciting or interesting or feel so impactful that they're enough to like really bring people back. Maybe stuff like Erisham does that here and there because it's just like totally different game-changing sort of card. This is sick. Both of these zombies look awesome. You know, but it just doesn't have that regular way to do that. Maybe, you know, big, you know, draft mode or conquest or something did that. Maybe Deadpool's Diner, those sort of events can, but I don't think to the same reliable extent as my guess. So what happens is there's no way to bring those players back. But when people do decide to return to the game, they are just so behind when it comes to resources and cards. It feels like they can't catch up. They're basically dropping themselves right in that middle section where they suddenly just can't get enough cards fast enough to have fun. So even returning players, which can be that great resource, get stuck in that same, you know, quicksand of that middle of the player base. So I don't know, man. It feels like Marvel Snap has a problem here where they can't just forever keep literally buying new players through advertisements, which that sort of has a negative connotation. It's not negative to advertise your game to players and have them join, but you know, it is effectively spending money to do that. They obviously are making money doing it, or they wouldn't do it. There's an ROI there, but it probably doesn't last forever as the luster of the game wears off, as time wears on, you know, as other games enter the marketplace that are more competitive. That just can't be a thing that lasts forever. So I don't know. It's just that makes me very concerned. Obviously, my career is tied to the success of Marvel Snap and beyond, and although I could certainly ride out for a while with a game that was declining, I'm doing really well in the scheme of things right now. You know, it just you think about these things, you want to talk about them, be open about them. I feel like there's got to be solutions that keep that middle of the road player base happier for longer and kind of bring more people into the late game of Marvel Snap, if you will, and just, you know, a lot of people to have more fun. I will note too, like I worry sometimes about Second Dinner's focus on Marvel Snap. We did see at the start of the year, I believe it was, that they received another $100 million in funding from some, I guess, some venture capital group, or, you know, I don't know if it's actually venture capital. Industry titan Griffin Gaming Partners, who has invested in other things like Discord, I saw, and so on. So, you know, they got $100 million in funding, and I don't feel like we've seen that in Marvel Snap, right? Like, obviously it's not been that long yet, but it doesn't feel like suddenly the game got a ton of new features and cards and developers, and it doesn't feel like, you know, prices have been lowered or anything like that. Clearly that 100 million is intended and designed for growth initiatives. Nobody invests money without the intent to grow and make money. And specifically, you know, Marvel Snap talked about making other games. They wrote, most of Second Dinner is focused on Marvel Snap, but we've also got a couple other things cooking, and I think they're super fun. Super fun, in fact. So I think based on that and some job hirings, we know they're working on some other games, which that not unreasonable. Game studios want to make games, right? Obviously there's nuance here, but it does feel a little quick. Marvel Snap's only been out 2 years, and it does feel a little risky, I think, to shift, you know, the kind of brain trust of Marvel Snap to other initiatives, because this game's been really successful. This has been a big hit, and it's really hard to make big successful games. And it's really hard to keep games big and successful. So you just wonder, like, was it a little too quick or a little too soon? Clearly we don't know the behind the scenes. We don't know the extent to which, how much of the team has shifted over to other things. It feels a little sad, at least, that it's like, oh man, I kind of wish this was getting another big push or two before then, But maybe they see the writing on the wall. Maybe they know the lifespan of a given game isn't forever, and they just know they have to get the next thing cooking, because maybe Marvel Snap can't last that long. Or maybe they want to focus on their own IPs, so they're not so tied to Marvel and licensing fees and so on. Maybe the base profitability of a game that you don't own the IP is pretty limited, so... from a business strategic standpoint, I understand it. I see why, but at the same time, I can't feel like there's maybe a little bit of lost opportunity with that lost focus, and a little bit of risk for sure inherent to venturing out when you've got, kind of a golden goose almost that seems so lucrative. I wonder if it's getting a little under supported from a feature and development standpoint. It feels that way to me, but what do I know? So, I don't know if I said anything at all. Really, my goal here was to fill time. Really, my goal was to fill time. So, in summary, Marvel Snap is still really fun, I think. Marvel Snap is still really frustrating from a progression standpoint, card unlock standpoint, monetization standpoint, I think. I do worry about the long-term prospects of the game with some of those retention and attrition issues that we discussed, and... although I'm curious what Second Dinner is working on next, I also worry that there's, a loss of focus or interest in Marvel Snap that came a little bit too soon when there's still a lot of meat on the bone, I think, and hope for Marvel Snap. Although, hope I'm wrong and hope the lack of insights I have is guiding that fear more than a reality. So, yeah, that's the recap. Hope you enjoyed this look at all my variants that you would never otherwise see, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Where you're at in your Marvel Snap progression journey. Like, what do you think about the future prospects of the game? You want to see game modes? Like, just share your Marvel Snap takes. I'm really curious to hear all those. So, thank you for entertaining me for these brief 10-20 minutes, and I'll see you next time. But do keep in mind I'm out of town right now, so hopefully I still get some cool videos out this week. But yeah, thank you, and until next time, game on.